Hi, my name is Mike Bryant. I'm the head of student well-being at RADA. Today I'd like to talk about covering safeguarding at RADA, what it means, the risks to be aware of, how to raise concerns, and the support available. Safeguarding is about protecting health, well-being, and the human rights of everyone, making sure that everyone can live free from harm. It applies to children, vulnerable adults, and in particular, students who might be at risk. So let's talk about what this session will cover. This session is going to cover the duty of care that RADA has and how safeguarding works here. RADA has a duty of care to deliver education and support safely and responsibly. We act to protect your health, safety, and welfare, but we aren't legally like a parent. There are limits to our responsibility. We're going to talk about safeguarding risk, how to raise the concern and who to speak to, issues around confidentiality, who the emergency contacts might be to contact regarding any safeguarding concerns, and we'll discuss student well-being and support that's available here. We'll also discuss a piece of legislation called the Prevent Duty, which is designed to help people from radicalization. This next slide discusses an overview of what does safeguarding mean and who is it for. Safeguarding means protecting people's health and their general well-being and rights and helping them to live free from any harm, abuse, or neglect. It's about people and organizations working together to prevent any abuse or neglect and to stop that from happening. Who's it apply to? It applies to different groups: children under the age of 18, vulnerable adults, and a vulnerable adult is a person who is 18 years or over who may be in need of any type of support based on their mental health or disability or illness. Anyone who may be unable to take care of themselves, basically, and vulnerable to harm or exploitation. At RADA, we apply safeguarding procedures to students who may be at risk of harm even if they're not an adult. So we treat both groups identically and take this very seriously. This slide is about the duty of care that all UK higher education institutions have. Basically, a higher education institution in the UK must deliver educational and support services to a standard expected of a competent institution, and that means it has a duty to act responsibly to protect students' health, safety, and welfare by addressing the risk it knows or should know about. So it has to take steps to remove any of these risks that the institution is aware of. However, there is a duty to those limits where RADA is not, the legal term is, in place of the parents, in loco parentis. That means that RADA does not have a legal responsibility for students, but a duty of care. So what are some of the potential risks that we're talking about? Here we list a few: mental health issues, the potential for sexual harassment and violence, or domestic abuse, or substance misuse. And under the category of mental health issues, we look at conditions that are clinically diagnosable by psychiatrists, and they can have a range of
Common
severity
mental health issues:
in their expression,
depression,
and they can
anxiety,
include a range of issues
disordered eating,
as those listed here:
post-traumatic
depression,
stress,
anxiety,
self-harm,
disordered
body
eating of
image
a
issues.
serious nature, post-traumatic stress, self-harm, suicidal thoughts that are of a life-impacting quality, and body image issues. Sexual harassment and violence. RADA treats all disclosures of sexual harassment or violence seriously. We offer support for cases from the past, as well as offering options or support or action where relevant, for recent cases. Many times the so-called rape myths can discourage survivors of violence from reporting, and only about 15% of sexual harassment or violence incidents are reported. But all RADA students are required to undertake harassment and sexual misconduct awareness training to raise awareness and understanding of these issues. To describe potential domestic and intimate relationship abuse cases, there would be safeguarding concerns. These would involve any aspects of behavior that are about controlling or coercing or threatening or violent or abusive behaviors between partners or family members who are age 16 or older, regardless of gender or sexuality. Types of abuse might be psychological, physical, sexual, financial, coercion, and other social forms of abuse. 21% of higher education students have experienced dating violence from current partners, while 32% have experienced violence from previous partners. Safeguarding can also involve supporting people who have any serious concerns about drug and alcohol use. According to the Office for National Statistics, in 2024, here are some statistics for people ages 16 to 24 in England and Wales. About 14% reported using cannabis within the last year. About 4 in 5, about 80% said they drink alcohol, and nearly 3/4 of those who drink said they're likely to engage in binge drink behavior. And of the list of substances, cocaine involved being the third most used drug among 16 to 24-year-olds after cannabis and ecstasy. At RADA, we offer a confidential support service for anyone concerned about their drug use or alcohol use or that of any family member. For specialist support, we have close contact with London Borough of Camden's Drug and Alcohol Wellbeing Service, which is called Change, Grow, Live. And they support RADA students. It's a free service. Safeguarding is also involved at investigating any forms of reported discrimination based on perceived difference. This is in accordance with the Equality Act, which states it's illegal to discriminate against anyone based on these following protected characteristics: race, disability, sex and sexual orientation, gender reassignment, religious belief. So RADA has a duty of care to protect students from discrimination. If you believe a student or yourself is being subjected to any form of discrimination, please report it as a safeguarding concern. So how do RADA staff respond to safeguarding issues? We let the students know that once they hear this information, they will have to pass the concern on to one of the safeguarding leads. Staff try to listen carefully and record any relevant information. Generally speaking, RADA staff speak to their line manager or one of the designated safeguarding leads within 24 hours when a safeguarding issue is raised. And the information is confidential and only shared with those who absolutely need to know. So who are the safeguarding leads at RADA? Safeguarding officer is Angela Taylor, the registrar. Her email is given next to her name, angela.taylor@rada.ac.uk. The designated safeguarding leads are Sarah Agnew, deputy registrar, and Mike Bryant, myself. What do the safeguarding leads do? Safeguarding leads consult with the student who raises the concern. An assessment is made of the risk involved. Decisions are made about which action to take. And the student at risk is kept as the focus of any decision making. and written records are made of decisions and actions. These records are confidential. This slide discusses what is expected of students. Students don't have a duty of care, so if you're a student, you're not responsible for protecting other students from harm in the way that members of staff are. So we encourage you to speak to a member of staff if you're worried about another student. If you pass on a concern to a member of staff, you won't be identified. When you speak to a member of staff about a concern, however, they cannot keep that information secret. They must pass the information on. So you are expected to take responsibility for your own behavior and adhere to RADA's Code of Conduct and the respected RADA policy. This is a screenshot of the RADA website reporting concern form. If you click on the box where it says report a concern here, it will take you to a form that any student, staff member, or any member of the public can complete to express their concern about a RADA student. You can have as little or as much information on this form as you wish. If you include less information, it makes it more difficult for any action or investigation to be taken, but it can sometimes be useful to highlight a concern about someone. You can report a concern about yourself or others on the website, which is seen only by those handling the complaints. Reports can be made anonymously or with your name included. Anonymous reports are recorded but not investigated. Named reports will be followed up, with RADA investigating and acting where relevant if needed. About confidentiality, confidentiality keeps your identity confidential when you report a concern. RADA supports your safety and acts only with your consent if you are being reported about, except in serious risk cases. All disclosures and records are kept confidential and shared only on a need-to-know basis. Emergency contacts. We ask all students to nominate a mature UK-based emergency contact person who can respond in serious emergencies. It doesn't have to be a family member, but it should be someone who knows that RADA has the contact details for that you nominate. RADA's emergency contact procedure guides when and how this contact is used in urgent situations. So what sort of situations? When might RADA use your emergency contact? When there's a risk to life or a risk to the safety of others, or an emergency situation requiring hospital admission. RADA will not use your contact for the following situations below: when someone has suicidal thoughts or self-harm, unless there's a risk to life. When someone reports abuse, including sexual contact, we will not use your emergency contact in that situation. If someone's struggling with drug or alcohol use, or has an unintended pregnancy, or any concerns around poor attendance. Here are various points that we want to make around different issues. If you report concern of historical abuse, including sexual assault, RADA will not contact the police. If you decide to report a crime, we will support you, but it's your choice to make. If someone is in immediate danger while they're in the building, we ask that you contact the duty manager. And also the duty manager will contact a member of the senior leadership team, and they may call 999. It depends on the situation. If you report a serious risk to a child or a vulnerable adult, RADA may need to pass this concern on to statutory social care or the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children or the police. Any action would be taken in consultation with you, the person reporting it. If you disclose suicidal thoughts or self-harm, we ask you to be in contact with your GP or to register with Gower Street Practice if you don't have a GP. If you are actively suicidal, the duty manager will call an ambulance or accompany you to accident and emergency hospital ward. Now, a word about the Student Wellbeing Service. The Student Wellbeing Service comprises the Counseling Service and the Disability Support Service. The Student Wellbeing Service provides confidential space to support personal and academic challenges. Support is available face-to-face or, if you wish, online with confidentiality, except as previously stated in serious risk cases. The Wellbeing Room is located near the library in Cheney Street. What we offer is a variety of support services, a drop-in service, counseling service. We can discuss any trauma issues or eating disorder issues. In Gower Street, we have the Disability Support Coordinator, who's based on the first floor in the Student Academic Services. Either the Counseling Service or the Disability Support Service can help you with any matters where you may need a GP. Part of our discussion around safeguarding issues involves discussing a piece of legislation called the Prevent Duty, which is part of the Counterterrorism and Security Act, which requires educational institutions to prevent people from being drawn into terrorism or hate groups, and it's known as the Prevent Duty. And the ideas around it are to help identify anyone who may be being exploited under ideological challenges of terrorism and who may face threat from those who promote it, and to prevent people from being drawn into terrorism and give them advice and support. The other objective is to help work with institutions where there are risk of radicalization that may need to be addressed. So if you'd like to learn more about the Prevent Duty, there's a link here that offers a free 10-minute training. If you want to know more about any of the specific regulations or policies, have a look at RADA's Regulations and Policy website. Here I've listed a few of the policies. There are many more. That concludes our presentation on safeguarding issues. If you have any queries, please feel free to contact the Student Wellbeing Service or the Student Academic Services. Bye for now.